All right, please welcome to the program State Senator Amanda Mays Bledsoe. She used to be a councilwoman, of course, here in Lexington, and she asked the Attorney General Russell Coleman for an opinion because I guess the senator heard from a few constituents that weren't real happy about this tax increase that got sprung on us over the Memorial Day holiday weekend. Senator Bledsoe, welcome to our show.
Hey, thanks.
Appreciate you joining us today. So, did you get a lot of complaints from constituents? What were they asking you, or what were they saying when they were ringing you up?
I think most people were just concerned that they didn't know about it to begin with. That it felt very much like there's a meeting, we heard about the meeting, and now we're finding out kind of after the fact that the occupational tax was being raised. And, there's a big difference between property tax and occupational tax. And I think this is one that maybe the school board just didn't think about how people might respond to an occupational tax and didn't probably give as much notification or discussion as probably necessary. And people were just very much caught off guard and then felt like they didn't have the chance to offer an opinion once it was voted on. And I think that's the frustration part. Whether the tax is there or not, the frustration was a lack of opportunity to really give input.
Well, and then there's two other things that also bothered me. I think the school board and the school system needs to make a better case as to why they need more of our money to fill this $16 million hole. I think there has been some questionable spending or some spending that they need to come a little bit cleaner about. Maybe some examples from the top. I don't know, maybe a couple of pay cuts at the very top, maybe some other cuts that at least would show people that they're hearing us on this. And then I also think the whole idea of springing it over a holiday weekend was no accident. And you had two school board members that claimed that they didn't know anything about it until that weekend. That almost in and of itself disqualifies this tax as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, if it tells you anything, I saw it because Monica Monday, who's my my school board member, happened to post it on social media, and I saw it on Saturday, and I reshared it for my own constituents. And I represent a good chunk of Fayette County, and I didn't know anything about it. So if I feel out of the loop, and I consider myself somewhat politically engaged, imagine how everyone else felt over Memorial Day weekend, who wasn't checking social media and certainly wasn't paying attention to school board. So I think all of that combined, I mean, and you're exactly right. Some of the things that have been coming out, and I applaud those, have been sharing specific instances of kind of saying, is this the best use of taxpayer money, and are we really moving education forward? I want the best education system that the public dollar can provide in Fayette County. I think we all do. The question is, are they doing that well with a lot of accountability? And there was no buy-in to do this yet. There just wasn't buy-in. And when you lose that, it's real hard to then make the argument that you need to have more money.
Well, I guess the school system now, according to the superintendent, Dr. Demetrius Liggins, they are going to hold later in June a public hearing on this. Not only did the Attorney General render an opinion, but the Fayette County Attorney Angela Evans did as well, and she said she looked at it independently and concurs with the Attorney General's opinion. So that leaves the school system kind of out in the cold because they said, well, we've looked at this and we're in compliance with the law. Well, Fayette County Attorney and the State Attorney General say you're not. So what's the status of the fiscal court hearing tomorrow, Senator?
So I think that's what the most interesting part of this is people who reached out to me and said, why can't you do something? And I said, well, we have a fiscal court, and most people don't even know we have one. And, most of the city and county money is spent by the city council, the merged government. And so the fiscal court meets very randomly, doesn't have a lot of authority. And people were like, well, who are they? So my understanding from talking to Susan Lamb, who I, of course, used to work with, is that they will not take a vote on this tomorrow. And they will follow the recommendations, and they will send it back to the school board. And I think Superintendent Liggins said they would have a conversation sometime in the end of June or July. Yeah. And I think what they're missing is, talk about an occupational tax. You were talking about the business community. My first question was, did you consult the largest employer in Fayette County, which is University of Kentucky? Did you talk to those at Commerce Lexington? And
they did.
Telling them you're thinking about it, though, is very different than saying, will you support us?
Yeah,
that's not what they did.
No, supposedly, and I don't know what kind of feedback they got, but according to Linda Blackford at the paper, they did go see Commerce Lexington about 3 weeks before they announced the thing, which makes it even more shocking that board members like Monica Monday didn't know anything about it. Let me ask you about an opinion. Go ahead, Senator.
Sorry. No, I think giving somebody an opinion, hey, we're thinking about this, or we're looking at it, or we might do it, is different than saying, will you support us? Yeah. And I'll just say, from talking to members in the business community who are very involved with Commerce Lexington, that was not what they thought that conversation was about. So I don't buy it.
The fiscal court, we don't know much about it. I did see, and I've mentioned this a couple of times on the show this week, the LFUCG interim commissioner of law, David Barbary, says Kentucky law seems to suggest that the Fayette County Fiscal Court does not have an option to disapprove or debate the tax increase. They only adopt it, and they were down to 2 members anyway, so you didn't even have an odd number of judges in case there had been some debate among the judges. So it does sound like it's a rubber stamp. Is that your impression, Senator, of the and you may know
exactly
more.
Right.
So from your time at council, your impression of the fiscal court is somebody comes to them and requests something, and they pretty much get it all the time.
I think they do have hearings for the PBA that do have some jurisdiction. But I think in this particular case, and this is why the Attorney General's opinion was so interesting, because he basically said, in this situation, the fiscal court's role is ministerial. They basically only can certify the rate that the school board has imposed. And so it's the school board who's responsible for notification and for the conversation that they violated. It's not the fiscal court. They just certified this is the rate. It's kind of like saying it's a rubber stamp. Yes, you did the rate, here it is. So it really was up to the school board to be the ones to basically notify and give certification. So that to me is why the school board is wrong. I think they were saying they didn't have to give public notice, but they are the governing body, and they did make the decision to raise the rate. Therefore, the accountability lies with them.
Do you think, and I don't want to turn into a referendum state like California, but should it be even easier than it has become, and it's easier than it used to be, to recall these kind of tax increases, or at least force a decision to be made to either rescind the tax or put it on the ballot? Do you think that more of these kinds of levies should be put on the ballot, Senator, rather than, and make the process even easier for these kinds of referendums to be placed in front of the voters?
What's interesting, in Fayette County, and you've seen this, we as a community voted to do Lextran tax years ago and impose a tax. We voted to do the park tax, if you will. Mm-hmm. So we have, as a community, voted to increase taxes as a whole. Now, not everybody, of course, has, but as a whole community, they have. When there has been buy-in, lots of conversation, lots of communication, and lots of independent meetings. So I think the miss on the school board here is not whether the tax is right or wrong, but they haven't had the accountability or the buy-in from the people to do so, which is why I think you're seeing such a frustration in this way, is that they haven't been bought in. Because, Fayette County, whether you support it or not, has been one to say, yes, we'll tax ourselves more for a good product or for a good project. And I just think the school board just blew it and thought they just had everyone's support without having those conversations on the front end.
A couple of personal questions before I let you go, Senator. First of all, you suffered a pretty significant injury some time back from your horse. Have you recovered from that?
I'm getting there. I have one more surgery, probably this July, August, that I really hope. We were, I lost a lot of teeth, just to be honest, in the process, and so we've been slowly getting my mouth back to a place where we can put new teeth back in, which would be helpful to me. I would like to have a full set again. So the good news is my jaw, my last appointment showed that my jaw and my upper bones have healed really, really well, which is great. I still have 6 plates and 24 screws holding my face together. So we wanted to give time for the bones to all heal, and they've done a really good job doing that. The body's a miraculous thing. And I'm hoping we can do one big surgery here this summer and fix the rest of it. That's my hope.
How many surgeries have you had up to now?
I've lost track.
Wow.
5 or 6 probably. When you shatter your face, when your nose and sinuses and jaws, there's just so much there that
it's all connected.
Dominoes, it's all connected. So you fix a little bit, and then you have to wait for it to heal. Then you fix the next thing and wait for it to heal. So I've just been so fortunate that UK is where I've had all my treatment. They have done a phenomenal job. Dr. Stapleton has been a great partner on the private side to help put together. I've had a collaborative team working to do so, and I'm just so thankful that I'm alive, that I can breathe, and that I have hopefully a good path here to the end.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that.